Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt, joined by Dr. Michael Oren, former Israeli ambassador to the United States. Last week, Dr. Oren, welcome back. You said, and I agreed, that the deal produced by President Trump and the Gulf nations and Israel was a win for Israel. Over on Friday, President Trump said Hamas has agreed. I read their statement. I'm willing to go along with that. But they're now at a table in Egypt. Ron Dermer's not there, so I'm not sure how serious it is. Step one of that agreement was the release of all the hostages, dead and alive. Isn't that doable immediately? I mean, Hamas has no wiggle room here. That's step one.
Yeah, it's doable, but the issue has been open to negotiations now. I think Israel's assumption at the beginning of this process was that the 20 points were take it or leave it, and that Hamas had a choice between surrendering and giving up the hostages or dying. And now it's been open to negotiations. And in those negotiations, which, by the way, have not been limited, the president said that they want negotiations to proceed swiftly, fast, but there's no time limit. And Hamas is going to seek three things. It's going to seek a total Israeli withdrawal from all of Gaza. It's going to seek a role in the post-war governance of Gaza, and it wants to retain its guns. Those three things. And it's going to hold on to those hostages as long as it can as leverage to get those three objectives.
So you've done a lot of negotiating in your life. If you're the Israeli team, and I think their names are Ophir Falk and Gal Hirsch, don't you sit there with folded hands and say, where are the hostages? We're not talking about anything else because that was point one?
Well, it would only work if the United States is behind that position. And again, the assumption going into this was that this was take it or leave it. It apparently is not take it or leave it. So now the United States, the president has determined how long can these negotiations go on, and what are the red lines, not just red lines for Israel, what are the red lines for the United States of America? President Trump has said again and again that Gaza must be demilitarized, that Gaza can't threaten anybody. He said again and again that Hamas can't have a role in that post-war governance of Gaza. Is the United States going to stick by those positions? And if so, then Israel's negotiating position will be much stronger.
Well, from the viewpoint of someone who thinks Trump knows what he's doing on this, he said 3 or 4 days, and they accepted within 3 or 4 days. So I give them another 2 or 3 days. They would not want to do it on the anniversary of 10/7, they being the terrorists, but 10/8, 10/9, after that, they're stalling, and the president knows that. Wouldn't you think everyone in the world knows that? If 2 days, this is not complicated.
And I guarantee you, on a historical basis, based on historical precedent, that the Palestinians will overplay their hand. They do not read this president very accurately, and they'll make one demand, another demand. They'll get an Israeli concession, but it will never be enough. They'll always go one concession more. And I know this because every peace plan that has been put on the table since 1967, maybe even going back to 1937, Hugh, the Palestinians have rejected it and then come back and said, how could we have missed that opportunity? They said even that about the Trump peace plan, by the way, in 2020. So I'm almost guaranteed they're going to do it again. There's a Hebrew expression. It's kind of hard to pronounce in English. Smoch al mufti. Depend on the mufti. The mufti being the Haj Amin Hosseini mufti of 1930s and 1940s, an ally of Hitler, who would always turn down peace agreements. And the idea is you could almost, as an Israeli or as a pre-Israeli Palestinian Jew before 1948, you could always depend on Palestinian rejectionism. And I think you can probably do it this time, too. I think they're going to overplay their hand, and President Trump is going to be fed up.
Well, I agree with that part. I do also think from afar, the prime minister had no other way to go than the way he went, which is, we're glad to hear it. We're sending our guys. This will be done in a few days. We can't wait to bring our hostages home. That was his only option, right? Given the thousands of people in the street.
And again, well, it doesn't. Thousands of people in the street. Maybe there are 100, maybe there are 200,000 people in the street, but there are 10 million Israelis. Let's put this in proportion. Okay, there are many Israelis who don't want to see this war end, want to see the war pursued to the very end, to the conquest of Gaza City and the uprooting, the physical uprooting of Hamas. That's a large part of the population. You don't hear from them because it's, they're not protesting in the street, and it's not very media attractive. But it is important. It certainly is Netanyahu's base. That's the Likud. But having said all that, Netanyahu will dig his heels in these negotiations if, how should I say this in extending a metaphor, if the president gives him the sand in which to dig those heels. So Netanyahu will say, no, you can't have your guns to Hamas. No, you cannot have a role in the post-war governance of Gaza. And no, there won't be an entire Israeli withdrawal prior to the end of this conflict entirely. If the president backs Netanyahu on that, then Israel can stand very, very strong in these negotiations.
All right, last question, Michael. The president allegedly said to the prime minister, "Why are you always so negative?" And the answer might be, "Well, 1,200 of my people got slaughtered 2 years ago." But the real answer is, "I've been in the Middle East a lot longer than you have." I didn't take that as a criticism of Netanyahu, though. I just took that as President Trump being President Trump. Hey, this is going to work. I'm an optimist. I'm a developer. And Bibi saying, "No, I know these people. They're going to overplay their hand." Is that how you read that exchange?
I did. And I know Mr. Netanyahu, and yes, his view of the world can be very dark, and as opposed to President Trump's view of the world, which is very upbeat and optimistic. And that's the nature of these two leaders. But having said that, they're both good negotiators. They're very keen negotiators. And they know when they're being twirled around somebody's finger. They'll know it. And if the president puts his foot down, then Israel can put both feet down.
Our last question. When do you think we will know whether or not this is a go or another dead end?
I think the week at the utmost, really the utmost.
Yep.
Again, the stopwatch is in the table of the Oval Office. That's where the stopwatch is. I just read a
I
headline.
think that's Thursday.
Now has put a deadline, but that doesn't mean anything. There's only one deadline that counts, and that's in Washington.
I agree, and I hope that one's on Thursday. Dr. Michael Oren, thank you. Follow him on X at Dr. Michael Oren. Thank you, Ambassador.